Hello friends, it's a beautiful morning and I'm headed to Walmart before work. I planned a menu last night that I'm super excited about. My goal is to spend about $20 and have enough meals for lunches and dinners throughout the week. And since it's summer, I'm keeping it simple. I've planned a menu that doesn't require much cooking. I'll do some meal prep on Sunday and then I'll have some easy lunches and dinners during the week. I was pleased to see that Walmart had avocados for 70 cents each, which is a great price right now. Just one avocado is going to go a long way in my menu. And I am planning to pick up a few items at my local produce market. However, I spotted these green peppers and it's not a bad price, so I'm going to go ahead and get one of these here. I do need some lettuce because I am making some salads this week. I could possibly get this cheaper at Wholesome Choice. However, I'm not going to mess around because I don't have a lot of time this week. So I'm just going to get this here. And it's $3.42 here. I think it was like $2 and something at Trader Joe's a couple of weeks ago. So you can even get that cheaper there. And then I'm going to grab these black-eyed peas and wondering if any of you know what I might be making with these. I fell in love with those recently when I made that black-eyed pea soup, and so I've been kind of thinking about recipes to make with those, and I'm excited about what I have planned. Comment now if you can think of a summer black-eyed pea recipe that I might be making. I'm going to use some black beans, and I already stocked these in my pantry, so I'll just add in the cost for these. But they had these 1 pound bags for $1.50. You can also get these at Dollar Tree still for $1.25. But I thought I would make like a Southwest style pasta salad. You'll see later on. And they also had the black-eyed peas in the cans, so you could just pick up 2 of these if you'd rather. I mentioned pasta, so I do need to pick up a box. And of course, I'm going to go for the great value because it's the least expensive, and I think I'll use some rotini. And even though this is quite a low budget for the week, I am getting some great stuff. I got an avocado, and now I'm going to get some sharp cheddar cheese. And I was delighted to see that they did a rollback on this cheese. I know that Walmart increased prices on lots of products, but fortunately, some of the prices have come down as well, and I am very excited about that. It really does make a huge difference when you're trying to eat on such a tight budget, and fortunately, I already stocked up on most of the items that I thought were going to increase in price. Okay, the next thing on my list is actually one that I'm very excited about because you may have heard me mention I do love chips. It is a guilty pleasure. And I noticed that Walmart had all of these different kinds of tortilla chips. These were $1.50 a bag, and that's perfect because it really fits my menu this week for what I plan to do with those black-eyed peas. And in case you haven't guessed it, I'm making cowboy caviar, and these bowls will be perfect for that. When I was doing some pricing online, I realized that they had an excellent deal on these small bottles of Kraft Ranch dressing. So I went to look for this and I couldn't find it anywhere. But then when I was walking away, I noticed it was on the very top shelf. So I had to manage to get that down somehow. They were also supposed to have these little bottles of Caesar salad dressing, but ranch is perfect for my menu, and I'll probably make some other kind of salad dressing. I wanted to add some chicken to this menu. I'm going to make both regular chicken and then some of these vegan chicken patties for myself. And I wanted a 4-pack of these, but they didn't have them. They were out. So I ended up going with an 8-pack. But I'm going to put a 4-pack in the budget. You could also, if they don't have those, grab these buffalo chicken patties. Those have some spice to them, so I don't like those as much, but you could either use those if you like spice, or you could add some chicken nuggets. And here is everything that I picked up at Walmart. And then I thought I was going to be super efficient. I went by Wholesome Choice, but they were not open yet. So I had to go after work, and I didn't film, so I'm just going to show you some of the prices. Those green onions, I picked those up 3 for $1, so 33 cents. And then I also got some cilantro there, which was also 33 cents. And I picked up a red bell pepper. I'm going to have the price list and the menu for you and all of the recipes in the description area of my video. Cost for the haul were right around 20 bucks. It was actually a little less if you use real chicken. And it was about $1 more with the vegan chicken. So 20 bucks or 21 bucks with the vegan chicken. I asked my son to pick up some chicken breasts when he was at the store, and he got these too. And these are $3.98. They do have the bone in, but I'll go ahead and remove those. So obviously, if you're into chicken, go ahead and do this. If you're vegan, then go ahead and do this. So here is everything that I got. I'm going to be able to make lots of cold meals with this. I've got the ranch dressing. I'm also going to make a homemade dressing as well. I've got all of the beans. I've got a whole pound of black-eyed peas. That's going to go really far. I'm going to make that cowboy caviar as a dip. Actually, it's going to be more like a meal for me because it's like a bean salad, but I'm just going to eat it along with the tortilla chips. And then I got these tomatoes, which I was so lucky that these were on such a good deal because those are going to be great in the menu as well. And all of the peppers. There's a lot of different things that I can make with this, but I'm trying to reel myself in and just only concentrate on like maybe 3 meals. However, obviously you could also make lots of soup with this. I think I'm going to have plenty of leftovers. As far as the cilantro, somebody asked me last time how I kept it so long. It really depends on the type of cilantro that it is. There are many different varieties. Some have these thick stalks. I find that the ones with the thick stalks last longer, but I just put it in water and then every couple of days I go and I turn it over, just like you saw me do right there. And that helps them to last a little bit longer. My green pepper was already kind of wrinkly, so I ended up putting that in water and putting that in the fridge. I decided to write out the ingredients that I wanted to use in the top 3 dishes. My first meal is going to be chicken with ranch, and it's going to be a pasta salad. Not only is it going to have pasta though, it's also going to have green lettuce. I don't usually mix these two, but I am going to be doing that today. This is going to be like a Southwest salad. It's going to have the black beans, the corn. I'm not going to put any of the peppers in because I'm going to be saving those for my cowboy caviar dish. There is very little cooking in this whole menu. It's basically just cooking the beans, the pasta, and the chicken, and that's it. And then I'm just going to chop up the rest of the items. And I'll cut up the romaine lettuce one head at a time because it'll only stay fresh for so long once it's cut. And I just grabbed a bunch of green onions, but this seems like a lot of green onions for one bunch. So I'm wondering if maybe they made a mistake on this one and it's like a double bunch. But regardless, I'm happy to have these because these are going to be great. You could use red onion. Obviously, use whatever you have on hand, but I do have a partiality to green onions. I use these in a lot of different ways, and I just love the fact that they're so mild and yet so flavorful. I especially like using these in salads. I'll use these in the cowboy caviar and also in the pasta salad. And I decided to separate these into the white onions and the darker ends, and I had lots of onions, probably more than I'm going to need for this week. I want to focus on cutting all of my veggies into small, uniform pieces. I almost left some strips out of these peppers, the green and red peppers, because in my mind I was thinking, oh, I can make a great pasta dish with peppers. But then I told myself, no, I'm going to stick to 3 cold menu items. Don't make any more because this summer, it's all about keeping it simple. But I have to mention it just in case you might want to do that should you get the same ingredients. You could make a Cajun chicken pasta dish if you had a little bit of cream and the smoky paprika, the chicken, the pasta, and then the peppers. That would be good. But as you can see, these are all quite small pieces, and this will be for the cowboy caviar. And I could add these to some salads as well, but I think I'm going to wait and see how much of these I'll need for the cowboy caviar. And then because my red peppers are not quite as crisp as the green, and even the onions are actually a little bit old since I first bought them, I'm going to go ahead and put some water into these, and it's going to crisp them up. By the time I use these, which is just going to be in a few hours, they'll be nice and crisp. And I wanted to show you this huge bag of spinach that Justin brought home. Look at this. He got this at Wholesome Choice and it was only $5. He's going to rinse this really well and put this in the freezer. He likes to add this to his protein shakes. Unfortunately, this is going to take up a lot of room in the freezer though. All right, I'm going to throw these black beans into a pot and put those on the stove. I'm also going to cook half of the pasta. I'm only going to cook half because this pasta is going to go a really long way in a salad, especially since I'm going to be using the lettuce also. So I don't think I'm going to need very much. I can always cook more later in the week if I want. I cooked 3 of the chicken patties in my air fryer. I still have 1 left. And then I just cut it into bite-sized chunks. I'm figuring I can get about 2 salads with each chicken patty. So hopefully I'll have 8 meals for that. And then here is the pasta. You can't really tell on camera, but this is actually quite a bit of pasta. And these are some very large grape tomatoes. So I'm just going to cut these into bite-sized pieces. And I'm only going to cut enough for my lunch right this minute. I am starving. I knew that I was going to be making this, and so I've been waiting to eat this. Unfortunately, my cilantro froze in one area of this, but that's okay. It's a little bit black in one area. I just picked that off, and I did a rough cut of the cilantro. I also made a smoky paprika vinaigrette. I'll leave the recipe for you in the description. I've already shown this on the channel a couple times. It's one of my favorite vinaigrettes now, and I thought it would be nice on this salad. However, I'm going to try it first with the ranch dressing. So I've got everything cut up and ready to go. I've got my sharp cheddar in little small cubes, which is amazing in ranch salads. I love that so much, and it goes especially well with the black beans. Oh, and my green onions became so crispy in just a couple hours. Listen to this if you can. You can almost hear them crunching in my fingers as I pick them up. They're so crisp now, and I am very excited to eat these. Everything tastes so much better when your veggies are fresh. Anyway, it works best if you put a bed of lettuce on the bottom and then just layer the ingredients. Just making it look more beautiful by layering them in a row like this, and then at the end I'll mix everything all together. This almost feels too luxurious, to be honest. I have a lot of ingredients here, which means I can get by with using less of each ingredient. And that's actually, I think, more chicken than I probably should have added there. But here it is. I also added some green onions and cilantro, and it feels like overkill, especially with this avocado, but I thought I would just try a little bit. After I ate this, I did feel like maybe I should have saved the avocado because there's so much going on in this salad that it didn't really stand out very much to me, although I do really love avocado with ranch. So I think I'm going to save that for another recipe here. And I thought I would try the dressing. I actually got this to make some of these chicken bowls for my son because I can't really eat this ranch dressing because of the lactose, and I didn't feel like making my own ranch dressing, but I did want to try a bite of this. I do love ranch dressing so much, and I love ranch specifically with these little cubes of extra sharp cheddar and the black beans and the corn. Everything just goes together. This was so good, you guys. I love this. But I knew I couldn't eat the ranch dressing at this moment, so I decided to pour some of the smoky paprika vinaigrette in here. This has red wine vinegar, and I just poured some in here and then mixed everything up, and it was phenomenal. I loved this salad so much. I could literally eat this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's how good it was. And I love the fact that you can make the same meal and just switch up the dressings, and it's like a completely different meal. I need to make a creamy version of this smoky paprika dressing, so maybe what I'll do is I'll add in some mayo to this as I get towards the end of it. And I really liked adding just a touch of pasta to this salad because it's still a nice low carb meal, but you still have the pasta in there that adds a little bit more filler to it. It just went really nicely together. And then the next day I wasn't as tired, so I decided to make my own ranch dressing. And I have that Trader Joe's ranch seasoning mix. I know you can buy that at Sam's Club too. It is super handy just to have that on hand. I added that to a little plant-based mayo and some coconut milk, and it turned out really delicious. And I just used coconut milk because that was all I had on hand. But obviously, if you have almond milk or cashew milk or something like that, just use whatever you have. But this was so good. And I made some of these for my sons as well. And theirs had chicken. And for the chicken, what I did was I took the 2 breasts that my son had picked up at the store, and then I just deboned those, and then I pounded those out to the same level of thickness. And then I mixed up a seasoning mix which had onion, garlic powder, Spanish paprika, salt, and cumin. And this had 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, also known as Spanish paprika, and then 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and of course I had to muddle mine because my spices do tend to get a bit clumpy because I'm towards the coast and it gets a bit humid. And then about 3/4 teaspoon of cumin. You can do a little more or less if you want. And then I just put some oil onto these breasts, and I did this for both sides. I just brushed it out and then added my seasoning mix. And then I let this sit actually in the fridge for a while before I cooked this. And I didn't need to use all of the seasoning mix, so I kept that for later use. It'll be a delicious mix for roasted vegetables. And I decided to get out my George Foreman grill because I just wanted to cook this as perfectly as possible, and I know that about 8 minutes makes this perfect. I love the George Foreman. I think I need to get a new one though. Mine is a little bit broken. I cook vegetables and all kinds of meats and proteins in this. I'll put a link to a George Foreman grill in case you guys want to get one of these as well. Anyway, I let that go, and then this is what it looked like. It turned out, again, perfect as usual. And then I cut this up, and I ended up with a lot of chicken. So if you are trying to conserve money, salads and soups and things like that are a great way to make people feel like they are getting meat into their diet, because it does go a long way. I was able to get about 6 salads out of these 2 chicken breasts, and both of my sons loved these. And I'm finally making cowboy caviar. Here are all of the ingredients. And let me just tell you right now, I did make a mistake. You do want to drain all of your ingredients very well. Even maybe dab them with a towel first. Otherwise, it's gonna reduce the intensity of the flavor of the vinaigrette. But that's why you've got me making the recipe first, and I can give you all of the pointers. So I used about 2 cups of black-eyed peas, about 1.5 cups of black beans, 1/3 of a cup of cilantro, and about half of my red peppers. And I'm not making the full entire amount that I could make. I'm trying to make these last throughout the days, and so obviously I didn't want to cook all of my beans all at once. And then the green peppers, as you can see, I'm just kind of dipping it out of the container that still had the water, which again was a mistake, but it was still super delicious. We actually ate this very quickly. It was so good. And then the green onions and the corn. And when I was making this menu, I realized I think ideally maybe I would have had a little bit more corn in this menu, but it was still delicious. It was very popular, and those ranch salads were so popular that I wanted to eat a lot of those, and my sons wanted to eat a lot of those. So I think maybe just a little bit more of the corn, and even maybe using frozen corn or shucked corn would be good here. And actually the Trader Joe's roasted corn is probably ideal. And then for the dressing on this, I used 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, and you can use whatever oil you want, but I do have this, so I am going to use it. And then you're going to use 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. And at first I just started with 1.5 tablespoons, but I did end up going back and adding the additional 1/2 tablespoon because I just wanted to make sure that it was not too vinegary. And then I added 1 teaspoon of sugar to this. You can obviously use honey or maple syrup if you want. And then I added a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And here's where I tasted it and decided to add the other 1/2 tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And now I'll add the dressing into the salad. And I'm not going to need all of this dressing because this dressing is going to help make several batches of this. And I had to, of course, try a bite right away, but I did know that this would be better if I let it sit for a bit just to get all of those flavors kind of marrying together. This is such a beautiful salad. You know, I sometimes talk about trying to eat the rainbow just in order to get all of the vitamins and nutrients into my diet. And I really truly feel like I'm eating the rainbow with this salad. This is so bright and so colorful, and it's exactly the kind of food that I like because I do love chips also. And this is a way for me to get away with eating them with feeling kind of nutritious. Did you see there wasn't that much in that bag? Which was kind of disappointing, but these do work well for this. Unfortunately, the bottom half of the bag were kind of just all broken chips. So at that point, I just had to kind of pour it over the salad and eat it with a spoon. You still got the nice crunchiness, but if I was entertaining for, you know, my family for the entire weekend, I would just buy the more expensive dipper chips. You guys, this was so good. And I hadn't added the avocado in yet. If you remember, I was kind of saving the avocado from the other dishes because I thought its best use would be in this dip, and I was right. When I added the avocado to this dip, it just made this a 10. And here's a platter that I made for my son. We actually had a great holiday weekend with all of this food, and I still have half the box of pasta, half the thing of cheese, lots of black-eyed peas, and 1 head of romaine and some cilantro left over. So I would most likely make some more salad or a pasta salad or soup with the remaining ingredients. And that concludes this week's video. Thanks so much for watching, friends. I'll see you next week.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I get